Hello, everyone, and welcome to Little Women. Thank you all for coming out tonight and supporting the Calvin Dramatic Society. We just wanted to, real quick, ask you to silence all your cell phones and ask if there's no flash photography during the show. Also, there will be a short intermission in between Act 1 and 2, and you'll be able to buy snacks and drinks, I think, and support us that way as well. So now Anna's going to pray, and then we'll get started.
Let's pray. Dear God, thank you for this day that you created and that we could be here together to celebrate the talents you gave all the wonderful people here ready to perform tonight. Give them courage and strength and help them put on the best show to their abilities. Help calm all their nerves, worries, and anxieties as they go into this performance. In your name we pray. Amen.
Enjoy the show.
Attention please, ladies and gentlemen guests, we are about to begin, thank you. As this year's president of the Springfield Ladies Literary Society, I am pleased and delighted to welcome you all to tonight's special program. Our speaker this evening is none other than noted authoress Josephine March, whom I'm sure we can all agree needs no introduction, except to say that she is a celebrated champion of women's issues, a dedicated speaker on matters of importance to us all, and a somewhat infamous suffragette. But tonight, I hope we'll be hearing from Josephine March, the literary writer. Her stories and characters have brought us so much fulfillment over the years. She is a national treasure, and we are honored to have her as our guest here in Springfield tonight. Please welcome Josephine March.
Thank you for that spirited welcome. Since I don't have any plans to get myself arrested while here in Springfield, I will limit my talk to a rather safer subject, literary fiction. I am often asked why I became a writer, and I've never found a satisfactory answer, except to say that I am who I am, and Jo March always wanted to write. If I can somehow let you see the real Jo March, you will understand why I write. My whole life, I suppose, has been a series of adventures, not the kind one thinks of as dazzling or grand, but the kind that we all experience. And I've learned that such a journey is no less remarkable than the adventures of Odysseus. If I had to pick a moment in time when I first began this journey, it would be the Christmas of 1863. We lived in a town not unlike this one, in a New England far away from the raging war. Father had lost a great deal of money in a bad business venture some years before, so the March family wasn't so grand as it once had been, but we were able to keep our house, and we made ends meet as best we could. When the war came, Father was too old to go as a soldier, so he joined Mr. Lincoln's army as a chaplain. He left for Virginia the spring before, and money matters were more difficult than ever. But still, it was Christmas Eve, and the March family was nothing if not spirited.
Beth, look what we found in the attic.
They're not really tree decorations, but they'll do well enough.
Oh, let me see. This old banner from Joe's play last summer might make a suitable garland.
Oh, look at this. Our star for the top of the tree.
Oh, this is pretty.
Oh, Beth, let me have it. I can make a new hair ribbon out of it. Don't you think?
We'll get this sad old tree looking magical before Marmee gets back. If only there were dozens of presents to go underneath it.
Christmas won't be Christmas without any presents.
It's so dreadful being poor.
I don't think it's fair for some girls to have plenty of pretty things and other girls nothing at all.
We've got father and mother and each other.
But we haven't got father. Not at home we don't. And who's to say how long it will be before we'll see him again?
You know the reason Mother proposed not to have any gifts this Christmas was because it's going to be a hard winter for everyone. And money not ought to be spent for pleasure when our men suffer so in the army. We can't do much, but we can make our little sacrifices, and we ought to do it gladly. I only wish I felt more glad about it.
That is Meg, the oldest and most practical of the March girls. We all looked up to Meg because she always seemed so responsible.
I wouldn't mind being so poor and not having nice things if I didn't have to go to that horrible school with those impudent girls who laugh at your dresses and label your father if he isn't rich. I wish I were as wealthy as the Lawrences. How I'd thumb my nose at those girls and teach them a thing or two about manners.
That is Amy, the youngest, and as she likes to remind us, the prettiest.
Oh dear, that key is sticking again.
Don't stop, Beth.
Oh, we love it when you play.
I only wish I played better. Then this old piano wouldn't sound so bad. I know it sounds so funny to say, but in some ways, I'm glad we're not rich.
Whatever for?
What do you mean, Beth?
Well, weren't you saying just the other day, Meg, that the Watson children you have to tend to are always fighting and fretting all the time, in spite of their money?
Well, yes.
And that we were a great deal happier than they were? Well, I think we are. For though we have to work and do without things, we make fun for ourselves, and I wouldn't want it any other way.
And that's our Beth. So sweet, so kind and gentle, but also so shy and was content to never leave her house and her piano if she didn't need to. We all adored Beth, but her frail health and timid manner were a concern to all the family.
Hello, Don Pedro, where are ye, thou sniveling swine of a villainous wretch?
But the most troubling of the March sisters was undoubtedly myself.
Hello, dear.
Joe!
You're home early.
Yes, thank goodness I escaped. Aunt March dozed off in the middle of chapter 7 of St. Augustine's Confessions, so I tiptoed out with her being none the wiser. Christopher Columbus! Look at that tree!
Do you like it?
Don't use such slang, Joe, please.
Like it? It's miraculous. Maybe we'll have a bit of Christmas around here after all.
Don't, Joe. It's so boyish.
That's why I do it. Now, how is my Beth today?
Fine, Joe.
Joe, look at your dress.
Why? What's the matter with it?
Joe, have you been sitting too near the fireplace again?
Oh, I just singed it a little. Gave Aunt March quite a start, I must admit.
Oh, how I detest rude and unladylike girls.
And I hate affected little niminy piminies.
Joe, that's not funny. Like, you get back here, Joe. That's not funny.
Stop it!
But it's
Both
your
of you! Really, you both are to blame. You are old enough to leave off boyish tricks and behave better, Josephine. Didn't matter so much when you were a little girl, but you're a lady now.
Though I hate to think I've got to grow up and be Miss March. Wear long gowns and look as prim as a china doll. Bad enough to be a girl anyway. And I like boys' work and games and manners. I just can't get over my disappointment and not being a boy. And it's worse now than ever. I'm dying to go and fight with Father, but all I can do is sit at home and knit like a poky old woman.
Poor Joe. It's too bad, but it can't be helped. You must try to be contented with making your name boyish and playing brother to us girls.
Or playing those silly men in those silly plays of yours.
As for you, Amy, you're altogether too particular and prim. Your airs are funny now, but you'll grow up an affected little goose if you don't take care.
Honk, honk!
That's enough, Joe.
Of course, my dearest. Peace on Christmas Eve, I say. Speaking of those silly plays of mine, Amy, we better rehearse. We need to be ready for tomorrow night. Come here and let's do the fainting scene. You're as stiff as a poker in that.
I can't help it. I never saw anyone faint. And I don't tend to make myself all black and blue, tumbling flat like you do.
Well, come and give it a try. You're the only one who can play Zaza. You're the only one small enough to be carried up shrieking by Don Pedro. Beth, can you give us some music?
Yes, Joe?
Meg, have you got your cues?
I think so.
All right. We will start with Don Pedro's entrance. I'll use this as a pistol. so the hour of my revenge approaches. Listen carefully, my sweet, and you will hear my hounds as they track down your beloved Rodrigo.
It cannot be so, Rodrigo. Save me! Save me!
No. You have to do it like this. Clasp your hands so and stagger across the room, crying frantically. Rodrigo! Save me! Save me! Oh. You see? Now try it again.
Oh dear. It cannot be so, Rodrigo. Save me! Save me!
It's no use. Do your best when the time comes, and if the audience laughs, don't blame me.
I don't see how you can write and act. Such splendid things, Joe. You're a regular Shakespeare.
Oh, I don't know. But I do think The Witch's Curse, an operatic tragedy, is rather a nice thing. And I'd love to give Macbeth a try, if only we had a trapdoor for Banquo. Is this a dagger I see before me?
No, it's that horrid hurricane lamp Aunt March gave us 2 Christmases ago. And my girl's so merry.
Hurry!
The Marmee as far back as I could remember. She was the most unselfish woman I've ever known. I've town admired her, and we thought she was the most splendid mother in the world.
Well, my dears, how have you got on today? How was your cold, Beth? And Meg, you look so tired. Were the Watson children in bad sorts today? Was school all right, Amy? And Joe, how did you find Aunt March today?
She found her well enough, but left her sleeping.
I have a treat for you.
A letter! 3 cheers for father.
A nice long one. He is well and thinks they shall get through the winter better than he feared. He sends all sorts of loving wishes for Christmas and a special message for you girls. I'll read that part to you. Here it is. Give them all my dear love.
My dear love and a kiss. Tell them I think of them, pray for them, and find my best comfort in their affection at all times. A year seems very long to wait before I see them again, but remind them that while we wait, we may all work so that these hard days need not be wasted. I know they'll remember all I said to them, that they'll be loving children to you, will do their duty faithfully, and conquer themselves so beautifully that when I return, I may be fonder and prouder
than ever of my little women.
Meg is right. I'm a selfish little goose.
I shall try not to be so rough and wild, but I'll do my duty here instead of wanting to be someplace else.
That is Hannah, our housekeeper, our cook, our Rock of Gibraltar. She had been with us since Meg was a baby.
Good evening, Miss March.
Hannah, Merry Christmas.
I'd best be telling you that a carriage has just pulled up to the walk. And I don't have to make you guess who it might be.
Aunt March.
Uh-oh.
Aunt March never goes out.
Especially in winter.
Whatever could she want? Joe, do you know anything about this?
Well,
Josephine!
Yes, Aunt March?
It seems you neglected to relay your Christmas wishes to your aunt before leaving today.
Oh, I'm sorry, Aunt March. Merry Christmas, Auntie.
Girls, please offer your best wishes as well.
Aunt March was my father's aunt, and she was extremely rich and extremely unpleasant. She was widowed and childless, and rarely left her big house on the hill because of her many ailments. Aunt March did hire me as a companion when father left for the war, and it was my job to read to her and be at her beck and call.
Josephine left today before I had a chance to give her these. One for each of the girls, $1 each.
Thank you, Aunt
You can
March.
thank me by spending it wisely, and not in the foolish manner young girls are accustomed to these days.
Yes, Aunt March.
Thank you, Aunt March. You will be glad to hear that I received a letter today from Mr. March. He is quite well and thinks they shall get through the winter better than he feared.
Foolish nephew, to run off and join the army at his age and condition? Where does he get off doing such a thing? And to leave a family behind for others to take care of.
We
no-
take care of
Joe.
ourselves.
Thank you for coming, Aunt March. And please, accept my warmest Christmas wishes.
Yes, good day.
Christopher Columbus.
A whole dollar.
Oh, we shall have a Christmas after all.
Here you are, girls.
Do you believe what she said about father?
I shall get a nice box of Faber's drawing pencils. I really need them.
I'm going to get that blue and yellow bonnet.
You know, Joe, the one we saw at Mason's. Nothing like that for me. I've had my eye on these volumes of Undine and Sintram for the longest time, and now I can get them.
What about you, Beth? What will you get with your dollar?
Do you think it'll be all right if I bought some new sheet music? They have so many wonderful songs at Mason's.
Maybe I should get some new hair ribbons instead. What do you think, Meg?
How about you only get a few pencils? Then you might have enough for some hair ribbon as well.
Miss March, this has just come. That little German boy brought it around the back door. I told him to wait.
It's the Hummels. Oh, dear, I think Mrs. Hummel' baby is coming soon. Hannah, please fetch my cloak.
But you haven't had your
Hurry.
tea.
There's no time to lose.
But who are the Hummels?
The German family that lives by the warehouses?
Mr. Hummel was killed in Virginia, and there's no one to care for Mrs. Hummel and her 4 children. Soon it will be 5. Thank you, Hannah. Girls, you are not to wait up for me. Joe, I put you in charge of household tonight, and Beth, be sure to take your medicine. Good night, my girls.
Good night,
Good night, Marmee.
That poor woman.
I don't see why these Hummels have to ruin our Christmas Eve.
The Hummels have bigger problems than deciding if they want pencils or hair ribbons.
Dear, dear Marmee. Somehow wishing for some new sheet music seems so selfish of me. The old music is perfectly fine.
Look, Marmee's slippers. See how worn they are?
I know. I shall buy her a new pair with my dollar. What do I need with some silly old books anyway?
No, I'll get Marmee the slippers. I'm the oldest.
She left me in charge. I'll buy them for her.
I'll tell you what we'll do. Let's each get her something for Christmas and not worry about ourselves.
That's so like you, dear. What shall we get?
Joe, how about you get Marmee the slippers? And I'll get her a nice pair of gloves.
Some handkerchiefs, all hemmed. She'll like that.
I'll get her a little bottle of cologne. She likes cologne, and it won't cost so much, so I'll still have some left for my pencils.
Come on, girls. Let's hurry up before Mr. Mason closes up for Christmas Eve.
Beth, be sure to wear your heavy scarf.
Christopher Columbus, this is going to be a capital Christmas after all.
Maybe if I get a very small bottle of cologne, I'll still have some money left for 1 hair ribbon and 5 pencils. Or 2 hair ribbons and 3 pencils.
Marmee didn't return that night. I lay awake thinking of what a strange Christmas this would be with no stockings filled, with no presents, no fancy Christmas dinner, no father, and maybe even no Marmee. Then I thought of father, and far away, and how odd his Christmas would be. I thought of Marmee with the Hummels. And as I finally got sleepy, I felt as though I was starting to see things as an adult does. The thought of it made me shiver, so I pulled the quilt over my head and went to sleep.
Merry Christmas, Marmee!
You have to.
Hannah, where's Marmee?
Not still with that German family.
I suppose so, but I've gone and prepared breakfast all the same. Someone ought to remember it's Christmas around here.
Hannah, what's that I smell?
Not popovers.
And why not? It's a holiday.
Oh, Hannah!
And sausages and those wheat cakes made with apples from the cellar.
Christopher Columbus. Oh, how wonderful. Popovers, I can't believe it.
How did you manage?
Never you mind. It's all ready, so come on in. I'll not have it go cold on us.
3 cheers for Hannah.
Oh, stop your nonsense.
Merry Christmas, girls.
Oh, Marty! Oh, you have
Ask me what we got
this
this
is
Christmas.
I got
Open my gift first.
My presents? But how?
With love from us, and though she doesn't know it, compliments of Aunt March.
Oh, dears, your dollars?
Open mine first.
You greedy little thing. Let Normie decide who she'll open first.
I'll decide. We'll have breakfast first, then presents.
What are you asking me?
Hannah is right. I will open them in good time.
I guess I can wait if you can. Come on, girls, let's eat.
What is it, Marmee? Are you all right?
Exhausted. That's what she is.
Oh, Marmee, sit down right here.
I am pretty tired, but I would like to say something before we sit down to eat.
What is it?
Mrs. Hummel had her baby early this morning, and thank God the little thing seems healthy enough, but the family, well, 6 of them have no fire and are huddled together in one bed to keep from freezing, and there is no food, and they struggle so. My girls, I want to bring them some firewood before I do anything else this Christmas.
Of course, Marmee, and we'll help.
And there is something I need to ask all of you. Would you be willing to give the Hummels your Christmas breakfast as a present? I know Hannah has prepared something special, but, well...
It's a good thing you came home before we ate it all by our greedy selves.
Yes, Marmee, let's do it.
Of course we will.
Even the popovers?
Certainly the popovers.
Let's hurry.
Won't the Hummels be surprised?
I knew you would do it. Thank you, girls.
I'll put some firewood in the cart.
Oh, I'll push the cart. Oh, do we have any fresh cream, Hannah?
Of course we do.
We can warm the wheat cakes by the fire that we make for them.
Oh, can I carry the popovers?
No! Better let Beth take them just to be safe.
What a funny force of angels we were at the Hummels, all scurrying around their shabby one-room hovel like schoolgirls on a class outing. Beth tended to the baby, Hannah got a good roaring fire going, while the rest of us served food to the family, whose grateful expressions brought tears to our eyes, even as we couldn't help but giggle with pleasure. Then it was off to church for Christmas services and home for a simple breakfast of sweetbread, milk, and crackers. All in all, a Christmas with so little, and yet I cannot recall one richer in spirit. That evening was the great performance of The Witch's Curse, an operatic tragedy. No gentlemen were admitted, but an all-woman audience was indiscriminately enthusiastic, even the 1 or 2 members who had actually seen a real play before.
For it must be the curse of that old witch that has delayed my beloved Rodrigo. For he promised to come ere the sun touch the nether edges of the great oaks that surround this castle.
I hear horses in the courtyard. My lady Zaza, perhaps it is he.
Oh, tarry not and go and find out my faithful nurse, for my heart will be forever frozen in grief until I know if 'tis he.
Certainly, my lady.
Oh, hither from my home, to this dreary castle have I come. Only Rodrigo's love can make me glad and save me from this villainous cat.
Zaza! I have come.
Alas, it is Don Pedro, my heart's scourge and my love's enemy.
There you are. So the hour of my revenge approaches. Listen carefully, my sweet, and you will hear my hounds as they track down your beloved Rodrigo.
hour of reckoning has arrived. Rodrigo is coming. Insolent one. My hounds will reduce him to nothing. The sound you just heard was the sound of your hounds retreating. Rodrigo has slain your soldiers in the courtyard. Cursed irony. Then I shall have to destroy the upstart myself. Arise, my lady. Rescue is at hand. Don Pedro, where are ye, thou sniveling swine of a villainous wretch? Draw thy weapon, insidious one. Rodrigo! Let us avert our eyes, my lady, ere our hearts will break. Justice! Righteousness! And the honor of my beauteous Zaza. My ever-true Rodrigo, it is I. You have not forgotten your Zaza. Act as if everything were all right. Dress. Don't worry, everyone. There's just a little bit more. You'll see. Go on. I can't. My lady, Rodrigo, look. The setting sun is touching the nether edges of the great oaks. Did I not say it would be so? Long live Prince Rodrigo. This sunset brings to sudden end the aged curse the old witch did send. And so we close this valiant tale with heartfelt cheer to wish all thee well. I broke the strap of my shoe.
My clever girls.
I never thought I could do it. Did you see me shaking?
I do wish you'd write less violent plays, Joe. Look at my shoe.
I think it's Joe's finest play yet.
Oh, I don't know. Did you like it, Marnie? Really like it?
It was thrilling. I am so proud of all of you, but listen, I have a special surprise for you all.
What is it, Marmee?
A surprise.
Compliments of Mr. Lawrence next door.
Ice cream? Oh, and fruitcake?
And chocolate! Such lovely flowers in winter.
Oh, Marmee!
Everyone, please join us, and Merry Christmas to you all.
Old Mr. Lawrence sent it. I wonder what in the world put such an idea into his head.
Hannah told one of his servants about your breakfast party with the Hummels this morning. He is an odd old gentleman, but hearing of it pleased him so. He sent me a note this afternoon asking if he might offer a few trifles in honor of the day.
A few trifles? Christopher Columbus!
Mansion was just a stone's throw away from our house. In fact, we seemed to live in the shadow of that great rambling old house. Old Mr. Lawrence was a private sort of person, a stern-looking old gentleman who only went out under cover of his big black carriage. We girls had paid little attention to the inhabitants of that dark house and their goings-on until that December. Mr. Lawrence's grandson Theodore came to live there right after Thanksgiving, but he seemed as secretive and as reclusive as his grandfather. I had a strong suspicion that it was the grandson who was responsible for our Christmas surprise, and I was determined to find out and waited all morning the next day until I saw that old man's carriage drive away.
I'm so sorry, but you've just missed my grandfather. He's gone into town.
Have I? Oh, that's so disappointing. Well, you'll have to excuse me then. I better
Please, you mustn't go.
Why, I only
Come in.
came to...
We never get visitors, you see, and you're Josephine, aren't you?
Yes, no,
I'm only Joe. You see, I only came to thank your grandfather, Mr. Lawrence, and
I'm not Mr. Lawrence. I'm only Lori.
Lori Lawrence? What an odd name you have.
No. You see, my name is Theodore Lawrence, but I don't like it much because the boys at school call me Dora for short, but I made them say Lori instead.
I hate my name too. Josephine, it's so sentimental. I wish everyone would just call me Joe instead. So, how did you get the boys at school to stop calling you Dora?
I thrashed them.
Oh. Well, I can't very well thrash Aunt March, so I suppose I shall have to bear it. This room is capital. Just capital. Boy, what I could do with a room like this.
Well, you mean for one of your plays?
How do you know about that?
Oh, well, I'm very much alone here. Grandfather likes his books and is quiet, and it gets awfully boring, you see. And, well, sometimes you leave the curtain open at the sitting room window. And I've seen you rehearse.
You have?
Oh, how I wish I could have seen the performance last night, but there were some ladies blocking the view, and I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry.
See, sometimes when the lamps are lit, it's like looking at a picture. See you all around the fire, all gathered around your mother. I haven't got a mother, you know.
And that's why you've come to live with your grandfather?
Grandfather took me out of school last fall and brought me here to be tutored privately. Doesn't hold much store in books and such, so here I am.
Well, must be dull as blazes all alone in a big old house like this. Oh, excuse my slang.
Oh, that's quite all right.
Christopher Columbus, if I'd known you were interested, I'd have let you play Rodrigo. You would have been smashed.
I'd have done my best. I played Macduff in school once.
You did? Did you have a trap door?
Then yield thee, coward, and live to be the show and gaze of the time.
And yet I will try my last before my body. I throw my warlike shield. Lay on, Macduff.
Would this have done for Rodrigo?
Capital!
Yeah!
I tell you, Mr. Lawrence, Lori, we shall never close that curtain again, and I give you leave to look as much as you like. Better yet, you should come over and join us sometime. We are neighbors after all, not strangers.
Yes, but...
Oh, your grandfather. Yes, he does seem a frightful old bird, but I'm sure I shouldn't be afraid of him. His mouth is grim, true, but he has kind eyes. He's not as handsome as my grandfather was, but I think I like him all the same.
Thank you, ma'am.
Oh, grandfather, you're back already.
So, you're not afraid of me, huh?
Well, no, sir?
You don't think me as handsome as your own grandfather?
Well, not quite, sir.
And my mouth is grim?
Well, a bit, sir.
But you like me in spite of it.
Yes, I do, sir.
You got your grandfather's spirit, my dear, even if I haven't his face. He was a fine man, my dear. What's more, he was a brave and honest one. I was proud to be his friend.
Thank you, sir.
But, what have you been doing with this boy of mine, eh?
I was, only trying to be neighborly, sir.
Of course, that's, something I'm quite liking, you might say, you know.
Oh, no, sir. I actually came over here to thank you for the wonderful Christmas breakfast that you sent us yesterday.
Yeah, tut. That was very much the boys' doing. Yeah. John. This is Mr. Brooke, my, grandson's tutor. John, has your pupil been attentive of late?
Well, Mr. Lawrence, this being the holiday season, any student tends to get a bit...
Exactly. Do you think your student here would suffer much of a disciplinary setback if I were to arrange a sort of social gathering in this house? Let's say, New Year's Eve?
Not at all, sir.
Then we must entertain such a notion. What do you say to a dance? Young people still enjoy dances, I suppose.
Oh, thank you, grandfather.
Do you really mean it, sir?
I wouldn't say it if I didn't mean it. You best help Theodore with the preparations, John. Give my regards to your mother, Miss March. frightful old bird.
But Miss March, I do think I believe in miracles.
There hadn't been many dances since the war started, and even fewer that the March girls were invited to. But we meant to have a glorious time at this one. Amy and Beth were considered too young for dancing, but were invited to the supper. As for Meg and I, we were struck with a delightful panic.
This hair ribbon looks so sad. Oh, how I need a long and beautiful yellow one.
It looks fine, dear.
Do I really have to go, Marmee? I'd much rather stay at home with you.
Mr. Lawrence has invited you, Beth, and it would be impolite not to accompany the other girls.
I wouldn't miss it for the world.
And they'll have music, Beth. I heard Claire say they hired 16 musicians.
There you go, Miss Meg. I got that sash looking as happy as I can.
Thank you, Hannah.
Where's Joe?
Joe? Joe? 16 musicians. Is that true, Meg?
Oh, have you got your gloves, girls?
Joe's getting mine. Joe!
I heard that Lorraine Gardner is wearing that all silk dress she wore to the Harvest Ball last year. How ostentatious of her.
It would be rude to arrive too late. Joe!
Wouldn't I look better than that Lorraine in that all silk dress? It's just my color.
I say we call off the whole thing. Look, the lemonade stains didn't come out of my clothes. Here are yours, Meg. They look fine. But you can't go without gloves, Joe. Whoever heard of dancing without gloves?
Dancing? Not very likely with this.
Oh, dear, does the patch show?
Something awful.
Well, it's my own fault. I should have learned from always sitting by that fireplace that you burn your dress and You then must can't sit as much as you can and keep your back out of sight at all times. Well, that's going to be a challenge. Maybe I can stand outside all night so I have an excuse to keep my coat on.
It's hardly noticeable, Joe. Get your coats on, girls.
What are we to do about Joe's gloves, Marmee?
I won't wear any. I don't care what people say.
Meg, give Joe one of yours. And then each of you hold one of the soiled ones folded up in your other hand.
As long as she doesn't go and stain my good one. And Joe, you will behave nicely, won't you? You won't stare or shout or say, Christopher Columbus, will you? No, Meg. There is no need to worry about me. I shall behave myself tonight, and I won't even get into any scrapes, if I can help it.
Be sure to give my best regards to Mr. Lawrence.
We will, Marmee.
must be the young Mr. Lawrence.
We have Muffet, my wife and daughter.
Oh, but we've heard so much about you. May I present my daughter, Clara?
Pleased to meet you.
We were so hoping to sit near you at supper. As I was saying to Clara, I said how much the young Mr. Lawrence looks like his father. It's quite remarkable.
Now, dear, let's not embarrass the lad.
You knew my father, Mrs. Moffat?
Well, no, but one hears so much about him. The late Mr. Lawrence was very highly esteemed here in Concord.
A pillar of the community.
I see.
I'm sure I speak for many others when I say how delightful it is to have you here.
Oh, thank you.
I was saying just that to Clara at supper. Isn't it delightful, Clara, to have Mr. Lawrence?
Oh, excuse me. I believe they started the dancing, and I'm sure Clara's dance card is quite full, so...
Actually, she does have a dance or two still open, Mr. Lawrence, if you would care to.
Oh,
Mother!
dear, I'm so sorry. I believe I've promised this first dance to someone, and here I stand babbling away. John, perhaps.
May I have the honor of this dance?
Why, yes, Mr. Brooke.
I hope you have a pleasant evening.
Mr. Brooke, by any chance, are you a member of the family? Oh, Lori!
There you are. I've been looking all over for you ever since supper. Where have you been hiding?
Hiding? Why would I be hiding? Why, this orchestra's just splendid. Your grandfather sure knows how to do things right, I must say.
Well, there would be no dance at all tonight if it wasn't for you.
Oh, nonsense.
My only regret is that he saw fit to invite so many people that I haven't been able to speak to you all evening.
Well, you can speak to me any old time. This music, though, is just
Well, let's not waste it. Where's your dance card?
I lost it.
Oh, well, then I claim this dance for myself.
No. I mean, I can't. Or I told Meg I wouldn't because...
Because what?
You promise you won't tell?
Never.
I have an awful habit of sitting too close to fireplaces and, well, I often burn my frocks and, you see, I scorched this one pretty bad and though it's nicely mended, it shows something awful, so I promised I'd stay outside all night so no one would see it.
Christopher Columbus, what an odd girl you are.
You can laugh, it's funny, I know.
Never mind that. We must do something. You can't go to a dance and not dance at all. Especially since I've been so looking forward to it.
I'm sorry, Lori. It's all my fault.
I'll tell you what we can do. This hallway goes right behind the musicians. We can dance out there and no one will see us.
That's a capital idea.
May I have this dance, Miss March?
Certainly, Mr. Lawrence.
Are you all right, Miss March?
Oh, ever so fine. I'm having a marvelous time. It's just that I need a breath of air. It's much cooler out here. I don't mean to keep you, Mr. Brooke.
I'd much rather stay out here with you, if you don't mind.
I'd hate for you to miss any of the dancing.
I fear I shall get more than my fair share of dancing for tonight.
That is true. There does seem to be a shortage of young men in there. With the war on, it's to be expected.
I understand we have similar pursuits, Miss March.
In what way do you mean?
Lori tells me that you work as a governess for the Watson family.
Governess is a much grander word than I would use. I'm not a true teacher, as you are.
Tutors, I'm afraid, are not quite as respected as teachers, but I do like it.
I only wish I liked teaching more. I never got the education one ought to have. Not like you.
If you had pupils such as Lori, you'd like it more. Oh, I shall be sorry to lose him next year when he starts college.
What will become of you?
As soon as he is off, I shall turn soldier. I'm needed.
That is good to hear. I should think every young man would want to go. Though it's hard for mothers and sisters to stay at home.
I have neither, and very few friends to care whether I live or die.
Oh, but that cannot be true.
No?
Surely Lori and Mr. Lawrence would care a great deal, and others, such as my sisters, and I.
Thank you. That is very pleasant to hear.
I think I've had enough fresh air.
Certainly. And may I be allowed to have this dance?
Certainly, Mr. Brooke.
Wonderful.
Amy, come back. Someone might see us.
What would be so awful. I want to see the dancing.
We promised Marmee we'd wait with the parents until Joe and Meg are ready to leave.
Who wants to go to a dance and not see any dancing? Oh, Beth, look at that. There's Meg. And just look at that Lorraine Gardner.
Do you see the grand piano at all?
I should say so. Come and look. It's as big as our dining room.
Oh, the music is so lovely.
I can't wait until I'm old enough to go dancing.
Someone is coming.
Let's sit up here on the steps. No one will see.
Do you see Joe anywhere?
No. I just hope she doesn't do something horrid. Beth, look at that. There's Clara. I don't think I like her hair like that.
Who's that dancing with Meg?
I can't tell.
What? Who's there? Ah, the younger March sisters, I believe. You must be.
Amy, sir.
Welcome, Amy. And?
She's shy, sir.
She is she? Well, that's no way to be.
She'd sooner die than talk to strangers.
Was that true? I thought we were neighbors.
That's right, Beth. Mr. Lawrence is...
Beth, sir.
Welcome, Beth. You're the musical one, I understand.
Yes, sir.
Do you see that great hunk of a piano in there?
Oh, yes.
Ah, it's a waste. That piano suffers from want of use. You know, unless you'd be kind enough to come over and play it sometime.
I couldn't.
Why not? Oh, you're shy. Forgot. Right. Well, you needn't see or speak to anyone. I'm usually holed up in my attic, and John and his tutor study on the other end of the building. Not even the servants come in here after 9 each morning. What do you say?
She'll do it, Mr. Lawrence. I can convince her.
If you're sure I won't be disturbing anyone, I would dearly love to.
I shall be obliged to you then. Enjoy the evening, ladies.
Beth, you were wonderful. You spoke to Mr. Lawrence like, I don't know what.
Can we go back now, Amy?
Not just yet. I want to see who Claire dances with. Shh.
But it is pretty obvious, isn't it? I can never understand you.
The Lawrence boy. The first time he makes any appearance in society, and those March girls descend on the place.
I'm sure they were invited, Mother.
That has nothing to do with it. I'll bet you anything that Daisy March has got that young Lawrence boy pegged out for one of her elder daughters.
Meg? Joe?
I don't think that wouldn't be a fine feather in her cap, capturing a wealthy Lawrence for one of her girls. Especially when they have no money of their own, and no prospects likely to turn up.
I don't think Joe March would want to marry any
Oh,
boy.
don't talk nonsense, Clara. You take my word for it. The oh-so-charitable Mrs. March has got plans for those girls.
Did you hear that, Beth? Beth? Oh, Beth, you're crying. It's all right, my dearest. You know none of it is true.
Can we go home now, Amy?
Yes, of course, Beth. Right away.
Oh, there you two are. We looked for you in the dining hall, but... Beth, what's the matter?
You have to leave, Joe. Right now.
Certainly. Can you go get Meg?
Of course.
Amy, what's the matter with Beth?
I can't say. Not here. Let's go and get our coats.
Oh, what is it, Joe? Has something happened to Beth? Something has upset her terribly, so we must go home right away. Lori, will you forgive us if we leave right now?
Please, let me walk you home.
No, we'll be all right. Can you give our goodbyes to your grandfather? Good afternoon, Mr. Brooke.
Please, wait one moment, Miss March. Is it possible we may meet again?
No, I must get home. I mean, yes, Mr. Brooke. Thank you, and good night.
Miss March.
Once we got home, we were able to calm Beth down. Amy told us what they had overheard Mrs. Moffat say. We all fussed and cried and complained and eventually got the younger girls to bed. Then Meg and I went down and told Marmee the whole story.
I'm not surprised that it disturbed Beth so, for she is unused to people, but surely the rest of you couldn't take offense at such talk.
Take offense? I do indeed, Wyatt. I had been there instead of Beth.
Why do people say such things, Marmee?
For any number of reasons you can never fully know. Learn to recognize the value of praise that comes from other people, and don't busy yourself trying to understand their scorn.
But Marmee, do you have plans for us, as Mrs. Moffat said?
Yes, my dear. I have a great many. All mothers do, but mine differ somewhat from Mrs. Moffat's, I would suspect. I want my girls to be beautiful, accomplished, and good, to be beloved, admired, and respected, to have a happy youth, and to be well and wisely married. To lead useful, pleasant lives with as little care and sorrow to try them as God sees fit to send. My dears, I am ambitious for you, but not to have you make a dash in the world, to marry rich men merely because they are rich, or have splendid houses which are not homes because love is wanting. I'd rather see you poor man's wives, if you are beloved, happy, and contented, rather than queens on thrones without self-respect or peace.
I sometimes wonder if poor girls stand a chance, unless they're forward or bold.
Then we'll all be old maids.
Joe.
Better to be happy old maids than unhappy wives, or unmaidenly girls running about to find husbands. Don't be troubled, Meg. Poverty seldom daunts a sincere lover.
We talked late into the night, not so much as mother instructing her daughters, but as three grown women, talking and discussing freely and openly. It was the kind of conversation that makes it difficult for one to go back to their childish ways. With the holidays concluded and the long New England winter ahead of us, life settled back into its usual routine for the March family. Each of us four girls returned to our daily burdens, as Marmee called them. Amy was still in school, and that seemed to cause her endless irritation.
Here she comes.
How does she look?
Terrible. Simply frightful. Amy.
What do you want? What happened?
Did Mr. Davis strike you with a stick?
Yeah, did he? Molly says he hits in the back of the hand, so a girl can hardly tie her own hair ribbons.
Is that why he kept you after dismissal, Amy?
Yeah, was it? He sure was angry when he found that funny picture you drew of him.
Yeah, he sure was. Did he hit you, Amy?
Did he?
Did he?
Certainly not. He just talked.
The very thought. I thought we heard you crying out.
I confess I did raise my voice higher than what was necessary.
And what did you tell Mr. Davis?
I told him I was not accustomed to being spoken to in front of others like that. And that if my mother knew about it, she would refuse to let me return to this silly old school. And what did he say? What could he say? He sort of apologized to me. And then I told him it was bad enough that I had to go to a school with a bunch of ill-mannered, snobby girls who had the sense of peahens. Oh! And my hands are just fine, thank you. Ah!
Meg's daily burden also involved dealing with little girls. As governess for the Watson children, she found that being the teacher was an even less an enviable position.
Please pay attention, Sarah.
Katie started it.
Did not. Please do not quarrel. We're trying to read the new words on page 16.
I can't focus with Sarah poking at me all the time.
Did not.
And my books got all wet when she spilled her tea this afternoon. Did not.
Page 16, please.
That's the same dress you've worn twice this week. Can't you wear a different one? A prettier one? We are not discussing dresses.
It's because she's poor, stupid. Everybody knows
I'm
it.
not stupid.
It's enough, Sarah. Katie, please start reading.
I heard Mom telling Martha that they're as poor as church mice. All governesses are.
I'm not stupid.
Enough! Katie, you will start.
My burden, of course, was Aunt March. Being her paid companion had many drawbacks. The old woman truly loved being ill and miserable and enjoyed spreading her misery as widely as she could.
Josephine!
But there was one consolation. Her house had the most marvelous library. Uncle March had been quite the reader and had a fascinating collection of books. Having already decided I was going to be a world-famous writer, I would hide myself away in that library and read every time Aunt March either dozed off to sleep or gossiped with callers.
Josephine!
Yes, Aunt March?
Where have you been? As if I didn't know. I pay you to keep me company, not my late husband's books. What have you there?
It's The Bride of Lammermoor by Sir Walter Scott. It's thrilling, Auntie.
Rather more thrilling than appropriate for a young lady, I imagine. Here, let us continue with Mr. Beltram's essays. Let's reread the one on perseverance. I seem to have napped during the later sessions.
Yes, Aunt March.
Walter Scott, the Bride of Lammermoor. What was my late husband thinking of?
As for Beth, dear, sweet, and fragile Beth, neither school nor outside work quite suited her. Her shyness and fear of people made any efforts to introduce her to the outside world a painful failure. It took some persuasion on all our parts, but she did finally find the courage to start going over to play Mr. Lawrence's grand piano. How her face shone when she'd return, telling us about the magical sound she never imagined she could create. I had my own private world, a room in the attic where I retreated to do my writing when genius was burning inside of me.
Joe?
Yes, Beth?
I am sorry to disturb you when you're writing. I know how difficult it must be.
Difficult? This wretched story just refuses to cooperate. I've got the princess is in the tower, and Ferdinand is in the dungeon, and Christopher Columbus, my brain aches so.
I shouldn't bother you then.
No, Beth. It seems I've hardly seen you these past few days.
I've been busy making these.
What is it?
Slippers for old Mr. Lawrence. He's been so kind to let me come over and play his piano. I must thank him somehow, and I don't know any other way. So I've needle-pointed this pair of slippers for him. Do you think it'll be all right?
Oh, it's a capital idea. And your needlepoint is top-notch. He couldn't help but love them.
The only thing is, how do I give them to him?
That's easy. The next time you're over there, just tell him you need him.
No, I couldn't. I mean, it would be so forward.
How's this then? You can write a little note, and I'll give them to Laurie. He can put them on his grandfather's desk when he's out, and there you are.
Thank you, Joe. That's what we'll do.
That's very lovely wrapping, Beth. Is that one of Amy's hair ribbons I see on top?
Oh, it was an old one she was going to throw out. I think.
Spring came, and with it came my first story that I felt confident enough about to try and sell. So I wrapped up the manuscript, and as inconspicuously as I could, I stole away to Main Street where the newspaper editorial office was situated over a dentist parlor. Then I presented my magnum opus to a balding editor who seemed to care less.
Caught you.
Laurie!
I've been following you, Miss March, ever since you left your home.
No, you haven't.
Yes, I have. And for good reason as well. I haven't seen you in days. You never come out of that old attic of yours. And here the weather's been capital, as you'd put it.
Well, I've been busy.
Well, when I saw you sneak off,
I did not sneak off.
just had to follow you. And I find you've come to this place. Such a disappointment. Here I thought Joe March had a mysterious dark secret.
No. Stop being such a child. You're older than I am.
By 2.5 months. So, did you have a bad time in there?
No, not very.
Well, that's good. You got through quickly.
Yes, thank goodness.
Why did you go alone?
Well, I didn't want anyone else to know.
You're an odd girl, aren't you? How many did you want to come out?
Only the one. How many did you think?
What? What's so funny?
You, Lori. Where do you think I've been?
Well, the dentist, of course. I saw...
I suppose I still have a secret then.
Christopher Columbus, you are an odd girl. Yeah, you know what? I don't think I'll walk you home after all.
I never said you could.
Oh, very well. I have a secret of my own, you know.
You do?
Yes, and if I tell it to you, you must tell me yours.
Well, is your secret a nice one?
Oh, isn't it? All about people you know, and such fun. I've been aching to tell you for days. Now, come, you begin.
You promise you won't tell anyone?
Not a word.
And you won't tease me in private?
I never tease.
Yes, you do. But no matter. I've just given a story of mine to the editor at the newspaper office, and, well, he said he'd give me an answer next week.
Hurrah for Miss March, the celebrated American authoress.
Hush! I don't think it will come to anything, but I couldn't rest till I had tried. And I didn't tell anyone else because, well, I didn't want them to be disappointed.
Oh, well, it won't fail. Why, Joe, your stories are works of Shakespeare compared to half the rubbish that's printed every day.
Why, thank you, McDuff. Now tell me your secret.
Well...
Lori! You have to play fair or I'll never believe you again.
Do you remember your telling me that Meg was angry at you because you lost one of her good gloves?
Yes, but that was...
Well, I know where it is.
Well, tell them.
John Brooke has it.
John. Well, how do you know?
I saw it. It fell out of his pocket onto his desk. I don't think he saw me see it, though.
But why would John
Don't
Brooke...
you see? He must have gotten it somehow at the New Year's Eve festival.
And he's kept it all this time.
Keeps it on him always. Isn't it romantic?
No! It's horrid.
I thought you'd like it.
It's ridiculous. What will Meg say when I
You
tell
are
her
not
that...
to tell anyone.
I never promised.
That was understood. And I trusted you.
Well, fine. I won't for now. But I'm disgusted and I wish you hadn't told me. Meg and John Brooke?
I thought you'd be pleased.
Heck, the idea of anyone coming to take Meg away, no thank you.
Well, you'll think differently when someone comes to take you away.
Oh, I'd like to see someone try.
So should I.
Well, I don't like secrets. I feel rumpled in my mind since you told me that.
Well, let me walk you home then.
No, I don't feel like walking. I feel like running. Race you back.
Joe!
I won! Joe!
Good afternoon, Miss March.
Is it? Joe, how could you go running like that? At your age, what will people think?
When will you stop such romping ways?
Never till I'm stiff and old and have to use a crutch.
Please excuse my sister, Mr. Brooke.
Well, there's no use trying to apologize for Joe.
Nice talk, Lori. You were running just as fast.
Faster. In fact, I could have caught up with you, but I'm too much a gent.
I fear it is I who must apologize for my students' behavior, Miss March. It cannot reflect well on a tutor when his...
No bashing nonsense! Joe! I'm gonna go inside. Goodbye, Lori. Shall you be joining me, Meg?
In a moment. Good afternoon, Mr. Brooke.
And thank you for your company.
The pleasure is all mine, Miss March.
Oh, and Mr. Lawrence, I must thank you for this gallop. It was indescribable.
And the same to you, Miss March.
Ta-ta!
Oh, stop!
Come along, Lori.
Goodbye.
Bye! Joe March, I shall never talk to you again as long as I live!
Meg, I can't believe you!
No!
You don't
You're such a child! You're too serious
No!
all the time. And
Beth,
all the time.
isn't Beth that afternoon?
Oh, Meg, we were waiting for Beth to come back from Mason's and...
Look! A piano! Can you believe such a thing? Is it from?
I should say so. Dreaming servants were over not 10 minutes ago.
What a capital old fellow Mr. Lawrence is.
And there's a letter, too.
Oh, what does it say?
It's addressed to Beth.
Look at me taking her. I can't wait to see her face.
Here she comes.
Oh, let me tell her.
No, I can tell her. I was there when they brought it.
Calm yourselves, girls, or you'll frighten dear Beth.
Hush, everybody, here she comes.
Marmee, they didn't have any more blue threads, so I got... What has happened?
It was delivered while you were out.
But...
And there's a letter for you.
For me? It's from the old gentleman. Read it, Beth. What does it say?
Oh, I'm just dying to know.
No, you read it, Marmee. I can't. I feel so... Oh, it's too lovely.
It is addressed, Miss Elizabeth March. Dear Madam,
I've had many pairs of slippers in my time, but I never had any that suited me so well as yours. The delicate needlepoint on them reminds me so of my own mother's hand, and I shall always treasure them. I have delayed in thanking you. I fear for too long as I contemplate how I could repay you. I like to pay my debts, so I know you will allow the old gentleman to send you something which once belonged to the little granddaughter he lost. I had long hidden her things away, but when I saw you on the steps that evening, you reminded me so of her. I can think of no better place for a grand piano than with you. With hearty thanks, I remain your
humble servant, James Lawrence.
Christopher Columbus! Beth, you've made a friend! Your humble servant, James Lawrence. Only think of that writing to you. Wait until I tell those girls at school.
Play it, Beth. Let's hear how it sounds.
Go ahead, Miss Beth.
Oh, play the thing we were practicing yesterday. I must thank him.
Of course, dear.
You can write a little note. I'll bring it over.
I can bring it over.
No, I must go and thank him myself.
Right now. Yes, now.
Well, if that ain't the strangest thing I ever seen. That pianist turned her head. She'd never have gone in her right mind.
Marmee, do you think Beth is all right?
I'm sure she is.
Come on, let's watch through the window.
Look, there she is at the gate. She's turning back. She's gone scared.
No, look. She's going up to the door.
I do believe the world is coming to an end.
Yes, what is it?
I only came to thank you, sir, for,
Weeks passed, and still, I heard nothing from the newspaper. I had just about given up hope when I received a note saying he would print my story, but not until the fall when ads picked up. My payment, no money, but the experience of being published. Of course, I told no one, except Lori, who I swore to secrecy. And then I waited for the big day.
But I shall not forget you, Angela whispered as the darkness came over his face. Shh, listen.
But I shall not forget you, even as the darkness comes over my face and the sound of the nightingale grows louder.
I cannot speak except to cry the name of Angela. Angela! Your death will give me the strength that will last me all my life. And as it came time for the nightingale to sing its final song, the name of Angelo parted on her lips, even as did her last breath. Angela! The end. like that one better than the story they had last week.
This one was so romantic. Yes, but I don't know if she really loved him. Otherwise, she would have wept real tears, I'm sure.
I love the name Angela. Don't you?
Who wrote it, Joe? Your sister. You? Joe wrote it? I knew it! I knew it! Oh, Joe, I'm so proud of you! Let me see. Look, there it says, right there. By Miss Josephine March, that's what it says.
Oh, Joe, that is wonderful. And your father will be so proud.
Oh, I don't think anyone will notice much, but I just couldn't stop.
We know you're the most clever girl. And now it's in print, so others will know too.
By Miss Josephine March. It sounds so elegant. Wait until I tell those girls at school.
You must tell us, Joe, how this all came about.
Oh, well, last spring, I went to the editor's office and you won't believe what a sour
Miss
old face she had. But
It's one of those telegraph things. It's just delivered.
is it Father?
It's from a hospital in Washington. Father is very ill and it says I should come at once.
Oh, God, protect us.
I'll have to leave right away, children. Poor Father. Help me get ready, girls. There's much to do.
The preparations were made quickly and quietly. I got Lori to run down to Main Street to telegraph the hospital that Marmee was on her way. Beth and Amy did the packing, and Meg and Marmee went to the bank to withdraw our meager savings, and then to the train depot to purchase a ticket for Washington. My job, I felt, was the most awful. I was to deliver a note Marmee wrote to Aunt March, asking for some money for expenses.
Of course you come to me. And I said it was absurd for a man of your father's age and condition to join the army. And I predicted no good would come of it. But did anyone listen to me?
Father is very ill, Aunt March. Mother's leaving on the 4 o'clock train. We need your help.
This is a considerable amount of money mentioned in this letter.
Oh, whatever you can spare, Auntie.
He had no business to put his family into such a...
We are proud of our father, even if you aren't. And we never would have come to you for your lousy money if we had anywhere else to turn.
Josephine!
I'm sorry, Aunt March. I'll go then.
I will think the matter over carefully and let your mother know before 4 o'clock. Meanwhile, I shall try to forget your impudence, young lady.
Here are 2 bottles of wine to bring to him, Mrs. March. I assure you they're of some quality and they'll be appreciated once he's feeling better. And my dressing gown.
Oh, Mr. Lawrence, that is not necessary.
Ah, nonsense. I only wish I could accompany you myself, but sadly, in my old age, I don't travel well in this kind of weather, and so it seemed a burden to you. So naturally, I've decided to send Mr. Brooke with you.
John, I will not hear of it.
Yeah, it's all been arranged.
Mr. Lawrence has some commissions for me in Washington that I must see to, and I'm more than happy to be of service to you there.
Bless you both.
Nearly time for the train, ladies.
Let's get this trunk closed up.
Here's the money Aunt March sent over, Marmee.
And here's your muffler. Beth and I did the lining.
Thank you, girls, but where's Joe?
She's been gone over an hour.
John, Theodore, let's get this trunk out to the carriage.
Yes, grandfather.
I won't have you girls going down to the station.
But Marmee.
I couldn't bear it. Now you must obey Hannah. I leave you to her care and Mr. Lawrence's protection.
Do you have all your things?
Yes, and
Where is Joe? I don't know.
I don't want to leave without you.
Joe? Joe?
Oh, here's Joe.
Joe, I was afraid I would miss you.
I'm sorry about all the fuss. Here, it's my contribution towards making Father well and bringing him home safely.
$25?
Where'd you get it?
Joe, I hope you haven't done anything rash.
No, I earned it, honestly. I didn't beg, borrow, or steal for it. You see, I made a terrible mess of dealing with Aunt Martin, so I knew.
She already sent the money, Joe.
She did? Well, I was hoping she would, but I couldn't be sure, and after making such a big mess of the whole ordeal, I knew it was my job to... Well, I only sold what was my own.
Oh, your hair! Your beautiful hair!
Oh, Joe, how could you?
Oh, Christopher Columbus.
Joe, there was no need for this, but I love you all the more because of it.
Well, it doesn't affect the fate of the nation or anything. I was walking down Walnut Street and I saw these long tails of hair in the shop window, and I thought, well, those don't look any better than my hair, and, well, maybe it would do my brain some good to get that heavy mop taken off. My brain feels deliciously light and cool already, and, well, I mean, if it looks a bit boyish now, that's more to my style, right?
Joe, you are the darndest girl I ever knew.
I will use the money wisely, Joe, for I know what you have done to get it.
The train, ladies.
Goodbye, my dears. You must each write to me.
Every day, Mommy. I will see to it.
And be strong, and do not fret, and God will bless us and take care of us all.
Goodbye, Mommy. Give our love to Father.
Don't forget the lunch basket.
Take care of her, John.
That night, I stayed up late and kept away from the others.
Joe, you haven't gone to bed yet either?
No. I can hear Amy snoring upstairs.
Thank goodness the young ones can sleep.
Yes.
Everything will be all right, Joe, don't you think?
Yes, I see that John Brooke has gone with Marmite.
No, I won't hear you say.
He's a good man now. I'm glad that he's... Yes. Oh, Meg!
Oh, what is it? Is it Mother?
No.
And Father will be all right?
I know.
What then?
It's my hair.
The weather grew cold and rainy as the days got shorter, and the March family, scattered about as they were, tried to stay together by way of the U.S. mail service.
Dearest Mother, how happy your last letter made us all feel. We were so glad to hear that Father was improving that we laughed and cried over it all afternoon long. How kind Mr. Brooke is, and how fortunate it is that Mr. Lawrence's business detains him near you so long, since he's so useful to you and Father.
Ma chère maman, I am behaving myself very well, even though Meg sometimes says otherwise, but I try to keep my peace. Even when Joe acts so unladylike, and I just have to point it out to her. Anyway, my French lessons are coming along very well, even though Hattie King does disturb me so. When she goes off and talks French real fast to me, when she knows I cannot bonjour or merci like her because I've never been to France, and she has. Anyway, the sleeves of my all-blue dress were worn out, so I could put in new ones, but they don't match like I'd wish them to.
Dear Mother, I am going to press some pansies from the garden into this letter for you and Father. They are the last of the summer, for the frost came again last night and the flower beds look so mournful. I have been practicing Morning at Rest on the piano, but it makes me so sad because it was one of Father's favorites. I remember to wind the clocks every day, and I've started going to the Hummels to help with the baby. Mrs. Hummel misses you so and talks about you all the time, even though I can only understand a little of what she says.
My precious Marmy, 3 cheers for Father and his much improved self. We are all behaving ourselves here, more or less. Aunt March grows more cross with the coming of winter, but I hold my tongue. Honest, I do. Laurie comes over often, and he keeps us in good cheer, for he can be a silly boy at times. And Mr. Lawrence has been so kind, playing the father to us. I think he rather enjoys it. I've tried to write some more, but every time I go up into the attic, I just stare at the old furniture, and my brain throbs with idleness. Your daughter authoress needs her family home before genius will burn again, I'm afraid.
Give my dearest love to Father, and believe me when I say how much we miss you both. Your own, Meg.
Adieu. Trey love to Papa, your affectionate daughter, Amy Curtis March. Oh, do come home soon to your loving little Beth.
Give Father the lovingest hug that ever was, and kiss yourself a dozen times over from your topsy-turvy Joe. Christopher Columbus, Beth, what's the matter?
No.
Beth?
You've had scarlet fever, haven't you?
Years ago when Meg did. Why?
Then I'll tell you. Oh, Joe, the baby's dead.
Baby?
Mrs. Hummels. It died in my arms just before she got home.
Oh, I'm so sorry, dear. That must have been so dreadful for you.
It wasn't dreadful, Joe. Only so sad. Mrs. Hummel had gone to get the doctor, and I held the baby and was singing to her that lullaby that Marmee always used to. It seemed to be asleep, and then all of a sudden it gave a little cry and trembled, and then lay very still. The doctor said it was scarlet fever.
But, Beth, you've never had scarlet fever.
The doctor told me to go home and take belladonna right away.
And so you shall. Hannah! Here, let's get this wet cloak off you. Come and sit down. Oh, I never should have let you go to the Hummels alone. I should have gone myself. Meg! Amy!
Don't let Amy come near. She's never had it, and I should hate to give it to her.
Heavens, what is all this shouting about?
It's Beth. She may have the fever.
Oh, Lord, protect us.
Beth did have the fever, and by the next morning, her frail little body was burning with the ailment. We wanted to telegraph to Marmee right away, but Hannah wouldn't hear of it. Amy, much against her will, was sent to Aunt March's house to stay. Twice a day, Dr. Banks came by to check on Beth. Meg had a telegram all written and ready to send in case Beth's condition got worse. After 5 days, Beth lost consciousness, and the doctor ordered that Mrs. March be sent for at once. Meg went to send the telegram, and I retreated to my attic room with more despair than I've ever felt before.
Oh, Joe, what is it? Is Beth worse?
Sent for Mother. The doctor told us to.
Joe, it's not as bad as that, is it?
She doesn't even know us, Laurie. When her eyes are open, she doesn't see anything, and well, there's no one here to help us bear it. Mother and Father are gone, and God seems so far away, I can't even find him.
I'm here, Joe. Hold on to me.
Beth is my conscience, my soul. I can't live without her. I can't.
Poor girl, you're worn out. You kind
Laurie,
of
why? Why is it that good and dear people always die young?
Not always. That's just in books.
Oh, Laurie.
Well, if it's any comfort to you, your mother will be home soon.
Not soon enough. Meg just sent the telegram an hour ago
But
and
I telegraphed her yesterday.
What?
Hannah's instructions be dashed. I wired yesterday morning and John answered she'd come at once. She'll be here tonight.
Oh, Lori. You did? Oh, my Lori! Oh, I'm sorry. That was dreadful of me. I shouldn't have, but I couldn't help but fly at you.
I don't mind.
Marmee is coming.
On the late train. I'm picking her up at the station at 2 in the morning.
You're such an angel, Lori. How shall I ever thank you?
Fly at me again. I rather like it.
The hours, they ticked by slowly, and there was no change in Beth's condition. If only Marmee would come. If only Marmee would come.
God spares Beth. I shall never complain again. God spares Beth. I shall love and serve him all my life. I wish I had no heart. It aches so. Life is often this difficult, Meg. I don't know how I shall ever bear it. What's happening? Hannah! Oh, my poor Beth.
The fever's turned. She's sleeping natural. Her skin is damaged. She's breathing easy. Oh, praise be given. Oh, my goodness me.
Thank you, Lori.
Marley! She's come!
My girl. Where's our dear Beth?
Hannah was right. The fever passed, and by morning Beth's eyes were clear and quite bright. With Marmee home and all of us nursing and tending to her, Beth gradually got her strength back. And by Christmas Eve, she was well enough to be brought to join the family.
Here she comes. Mr. Lawrence, they're bringing her in. 3 cheers for Beth!
Beth, look at the tree. It's not nearly as nice as if you would have helped, but
Don't drop her.
She's as light as a feather.
Let's put her down on the sofa.
Gently, Lori.
Merry Christmas, my dear one.
Thank you, Mr. Lawrence. Doesn't she look splendid?
I'll get the wine.
Oh, Beth, Mr. Lawrence has prepared the most marvelous treat. Once again.
Well, grandfather can't help himself when it comes to the March girls.
Are you comfortable there, my dear?
Oh, yes. Here's something to celebrate with. A little taste of this, Miss Beth, and you'll have the color right back in your cheeks.
I'll get the special wine glasses. After all, this is Christmas, isn't it?
John?
You've returned.
I have a special Christmas present for the March family.
Father!
And so the March family was all together once again. It would be the last time, for the days that followed were filled with new experiences and new people. I can only pause and smile now when I think of that moment in time. That Christmas, 1864. And I frown and I laugh when I think of what would become of those 4 little women. Spring came, and with it young love. Not for Joe March, thank you, but for Meg. Losing her was inevitable, but as was my way, I wasn't about to give her up without a fight.
Please stop referring to Mr. Brooks as my John. It isn't proper or true. He's not mine. I've told you, I don't care much for him.
And that's all there is to be said. But Meg, you're not your old self. Not a bit.
You seem so far away from me at times, and Well, I know it's because of him. Besides, Lori tells me things. What things? How John feels about you. Don't gossip about it, Joe. I couldn't bear it. Oh, I know you. He'll come over here one day and he'll just get down on both knees to propose, and well, you won't know what to say, so instead of giving him a firm no, you'll blush, and you'll cry, and you'll give in to him. I'm not so weak and silly as you think. I know just what I should say, for I've planned it all out, so I needed to be taken unawares. Have you really? What will you say to him then? I shall merely say, quite calmly and decidedly, thank you, Mr. Brooke. You're very kind, but I agree with my father that I'm too young to enter into any engagement at present, so please say no more, and let us remain friends, as we were. Oh, that's capital, Meg! Just wish I could be there to see it. What do you mean? Well, he's coming today. I mean, Lori, and I guess it will be today. Today? Oh, Meg, I'm so glad you have it all planned out. Everything will be all right in the end. It's all right. Oh, I'd give anything to see his face when you tell him. Joe, where are you going? Be firm, Meg.
Good afternoon, Miss March. I came to get my umbrella that I left. That is to see how your father finds himself today.
It's very well. He's in the rack. I'll get him and tell it you're here. Oh, please, sit down. I'll go get my father.
Don't go. Are you afraid of me, Margaret?
How can I be afraid of you when you've been so kind to Father and all of us? I only wish I could thank you for it.
Shall I show you how?
Oh, no, please don't. I'd rather not.
I won't trouble you. I love you so much, Meg. I only want to know if you care for me a little.
Thank you, Mr. Brooke. You're very kind. But I don't know.
Will you try and find out? I just want to know.
I'm too young.
Oh, wait. And in the meantime, you could be learning to like me. Would that be such a difficult thing to learn?
Not if I choose to learn, but...
Then please choose to learn, Meg, and perhaps I could help you. I do love to teach, and this will be easier than German.
I don't choose. Please go away and leave me be.
Do you really mean that?
Yes, I do.
May I hope that you'll change your mind.
I...
Don't play with me, Meg. I didn't think that of you.
Don't think of me at all then.
I wonder if it's even possible.
Bless me. What is all of this?
Excuse me.
Father's friend. I'm surprised to see you, Aunt March.
That's evident, but what is father's friend saying that makes you look like a penny? There is mischief going on here, Margaret. I intend on knowing what it is.
We were merely talking. Mr. Brooke came for his umbrella.
The Lawrence boy's tutor. Is that the kind of person you associate with? Hired help?
Hush! He'll hear you.
Oh, hush me, young lady. I have something to say to you, and I must free my mind at once. Tell me, do you mean to go and marry this person? For if you do, not one penny of my money ever goes to you. Remember that, and be a sensible girl.
I shall marry whom I please, Aunt March. And you can leave your money to whoever you like.
Highty-tighty! Is that the way you take my advice, miss? You'll be sorry for it by and by when you tried love in a shabby little cottage and found it a failure.
It can't be any worse than what some people find in big houses.
Now, Meg, my dear, be reasonable and take my advice. I mean it kindly. I don't want you to spoil your whole life by making a mistake at the beginning. You ought to marry well and help your family. It is your duty to make a rich match.
Well, Mother and Father don't think so. They like John, even though he's poor.
Your parents, my dear, have no more worldly wisdom than two babies.
I'm glad of it.
This tutor has no money, no respectable relations. I understand no prospects.
John is good and wise. He's got heaps of talent, and he's sure to get on. Everyone likes and respects him, and I'm proud to think that he cares for me. Though I'm poor and young and silly.
He knows you have rich relations, my child. That's a secret to his liking, I suspect.
Aunt March, how dare you say such a thing? My John wouldn't marry for money more than I would.
Well, I wash my hands of the whole affair. You are a willful child, and you lose more than you ever know by this piece of folly. Don't expect anything from me when you're married. I'm done with you forever.
Thank you for defending me, Meg.
John! You heard?
And I thank your Aunt March for proving that you do care for me. A little.
I didn't realize how much until she said all those awful things about you.
And I needn't go away,
No.
but may stay and be happy.
Yes, John.
Meg, what did he say when you... Christopher Columbus!
They were married that summer, and though I was resigned to it, I couldn't but blame Aunt March for it all. The war finally came to an end, and Father was hired as an assistant minister at the church. Meg and John settled in a small house not far away, and before a year passed, they had twins, a boy and a girl. Everyone was thrilled, except Aunt March, who found it excessive. I no longer worked for a rich relative. During her stay there while Beth was ill, Amy made a more favorable impression on Aunt March than I ever did. Soon Amy was reading to the old woman. Beth's frail health was much the worse for her, bout with scarlet fever, and she was able to help Hannah less and less. But her pure and open spirit was unchanged. As for myself, my writing occupied more and more of my time, and I managed to sell a story often enough to contribute substantially to the family. But with Lori away at college and Meg out of the house, life seemed quieter and much less fun. Maybe I was finally growing up.
Is this the home of that genius March you hear so much about?
Lori! Oh, what a surprise! But your letter
Oh,
said...
well, I left campus a few days early. And I did well in my exams, you'll be surprised to know. John Brooke ought to be proud.
Me too. Not the only one who had to throw some sense into that line of yours. Now sit and tell me all about it. Did you propose marriage to anyone this week?
Not this week.
You're incorrigible, Lori. According to your letters, fallen in love every month this past semester.
Don't be like that, Joe. Jealousy isn't for you.
Jealousy? I just didn't want you to be flirting about it. And you do flirt atrociously, Lori.
Well, I'm learning. Besides, I'm glad you can't flirt, Joe. It's refreshing, really, to see a sensible, straightforward girl who could be jolly and kind without making a fool of herself.
Oh, why, yes. I've grown very mature and dignified since you've been away.
You have? I see you've burnt the hem of that dress as well.
That couldn't be helped.
And I heard you gave Amy a mild shock by racing all the way to church on Easter Sunday.
I was late. Besides, it was a luscious day.
You haven't changed.
But you have. Why are you looking at me in that way?
In what way?
That painfully serious way?
Is it so obvious?
Lori, what is it?
I must say it, Joe. And you must hear me. It's no use. We've got to have it out.
I don't think I like this conversation. Say what you like. I'll listen.
I have loved you ever since I have known you, Joe. I always have, and I couldn't help it. And I've tried to tell you and show you in the past, but you wouldn't let me.
I wish to save you. I only wanted you to understand that I
I know, but it made me love you all the more. And being away at college these 2 years, meeting so many new people, seeing what other girls are like, it only made me want to be with you. And I've waited, and I've hoped, even though I'm not half good enough for you, but...
Yes, you are. You're a great deal too good for me. And I'm proud of you, and I'm fond of you, and I'm so grateful to you. But I don't love you the way that you want me to. I've tried, but I can't change the feeling. It would be a lie to say I do when I don't.
Really? Truly, Joe?
Really, truly, dear. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so dreadfully sorry. I wish you wouldn't take it so hard.
Well, how am I supposed to take it, Joe? We aren't children anymore. We aren't playing a game. We cannot always remain as we were.
Can't we? I suppose not.
Well, I suppose there is one very logical explanation for your lack of feeling for me.
There is?
There's somebody else that you love.
Is there? Wild old Joe March, who'd have me? No. Lord, there's no one else. I have no idea of going off and loving anyone else.
But you will someday. And what will become of me?
You'll love someone too, like a sensible boy, and you'll forget all this trouble. Someone kind and someone lovely who won't make you feel ashamed. Someone elegant, not odd Joe March with scribbling in her awkward ways.
Anything more?
Nothing more except that I don't believe I shall ever marry. I love my liberty all too well to be in any hurry to give it up for a mortal man.
I know better. You may think so now, but there will come a time, sooner than you think, where you'll meet someone. Some fool who makes you think you're something that you're not. And you'll love him tremendously, and you'll live and die for him. I know you will. It's just your way. But I, for one, will not be able to stand by and watch such a thing happen.
Lori, where are you going?
To the devil.
You asked me the other day, Marty, what my wishes were?
Yes, Joe. You seemed somewhat despondent, and I wanted to know what was on your mind.
Well, I'll tell one of them to you. I want to go away this winter for a change.
Why, Joe?
I feel restless and anxious.
Anxious for what, dear?
To be seeing and doing and learning more than I am. I need stirring up to try my wings.
And where would you like to try your wings?
New York. I had an idea yesterday, and this is it. You know how Mrs. Kirk wrote to you, asking if you knew of some respectable young person who could teach your children to sew and whatnot? Well, I think I should suit her if I try.
I'm sure you would. But what about your writing?
All the better for a change. I've grown so stale. In New York, I shall see new things and get new ideas.
I'm sure you will, and it will be a good experience for you, but are these your only reasons for this sudden fancy?
No, Marmy.
It's Lori, isn't it?
Yes.
You don't care for him in the way it is evident he cares for you.
I love the dear boy, as I always have, but no, not in the way that he wishes me to.
I'm glad of that, Joe.
You are?
Yes, because I don't think you are suited to one another. As friends, you are very happy together, but I fear you are too much alike, and too fond of freedom, not to mention your strong wills, to ever be truly happy as husband and wife.
So you're not mad? I mean, Aunt March would have a conniption fit if she knew I were tossing off Lawrence.
Well, let's put it this way. Mrs. Moffat will have reason for hope for her Clara.
Oh, Marmee.
Let's discuss your New York idea with Father tonight after dinner.
So the plans were made to send Joe March out into the wide, wide world. Mrs. Kirk gladly accepted me, and all of my travel arrangements were made. But leaving Beth was the most difficult part of my plan.
I shall write to you, and I'll tell you about everything, every day if I can, and you'll have wonderful letters to keep you company, rather than just moody old Joe like you have now.
Oh, I'm so happy for you, Joe.
Are you, my dear?
I've always known that one day you would have to go off and leave this place to become a great writer.
Well, governess at Mrs. Kirk's boarding house is quite the same as going off to Paris to write poetry, but it's a start.
I shall miss you, Joe.
I shall miss you. My precious Beth, I'd take you with me if I could,
No,
but...
Joe. I belong here. And only here.
I arrived in New York, so timid and nervous that no one from home would have recognized their wild Joe. But once in Mrs. Kirk's boarding house, I felt a little more sure of myself.
Now, my dear, make yourself at home. I'm on the go from morning till night, as you may suppose, with the boarders and my own family. But a great anxiety is off my mind, knowing that the girls are safe with you. You use this sitting room here for all of your lessons, but all of my rooms are open to you. I promised you, dear mother, I would do all I could to make you comfortable. There are many pleasant people in the house if you're feeling sociable, and your evenings are always free. If you have any problems, let me know, and I will do my best. Girls, what are you doing to the professor?
Oh, Mrs. Kirk, I'm afraid I'm to blame.
He's really up there, Mama. Didn't I tell you that?
Stop that immediately.
My turn.
I'm afraid not, Miss Kitty. We are disturbing all the boarders.
What will Miss March think of us? I shouldn't wonder. Josephine, these are my girls, Minnie and Kitty. Girls, say hello to Miss March.
Hello.
And this is Professor Bear. He's in the second floor rear room.
I must apologize for my rude behavior, Miss March.
Oh, not at all. I've been told I do a pretty good bear impression myself.
You see, Mrs. Kirk, the children were teasing me again about my name. Professor Bear is a bear, they say. So I become Bear for them.
I told you girls to leave the professor alone while he's working. Thank goodness you've come, Josephine, before my girls become wild as horses. Now, off and get your tea. Mrs. O'Connor set out in the kitchen half an hour ago. They're not bad girls, Josephine.
Bad girls? No, not at all. But very spirited.
That's the word, spirited. The professor knows.
But I must not intrude any further. Good day, Miss March. I hope you will like it here.
I'm sure I will.
Good. Now, I must return to my room.
He's a dear man from Berlin, very learned and good, but poor as a church mouse. He takes in some pupils and does some translating, but they say he was quite the scholar in Europe. It's a sad story. Now, let me show you to your room. Right this way has a fine view of the church tower.
And so began my career as a governess. As for my other career, New York was both a stimulating and discouraging place. I submitted a news story to a weekly newspaper only to be told that it wasn't sensational enough. It wasn't until I added duchesses, bandits, and murderers that they liked it. So I became a New York writer, of sorts, but at what a price. But I soon learned that Professor Bear was indeed a scholar, as Mrs. Kirk had said. This German knew more literature and English than I'd ever imagined knowing.
Ah, Miss March.
Professor?
I have been anxious to show you something. So I wait here, because I know you will come.
What is it, Professor?
I have found the Emerson that I mentioned to you yesterday. It was hiding in my room with all the books and papers that make such a mess. But I find it, and I give it to you.
Why, thank you, Professor. I shall return it as soon as I'm finished.
No, for you to keep. You are a young writer, and this book says what I feel in my heart about writers.
Thank you, Professor.
Read what is written inside.
To Miss Josephine March, may all your words be as extraordinary as the fields you have chosen. Friedrich Bear. I don't know what to say, Professor.
Then say nothing. It makes me happy to give it.
These words shame me, Professor.
Why do you say that?
Well, I've yet to write anything that's extraordinary. I'm just a scribbler, and I'm a pretty ordinary one at that.
Perhaps sometime you will let me see?
Read my stories? Oh, I could never. You're so wise, and I'd be embarrassed.
I would read them not like a teacher, but like a friend.
Well, all right. Someday, I promise.
Good. Now, you must tell me what you thought of the Goldsmith novel.
As weeks passed, I felt as Mrs. Kirk's home was mine as well. Little Kitty and Minnie were indeed spirited, but we liked each other from the start and had a grand time.
Eight plus 8 equals 16. 9 plus 9 equals 18. 10 plus 10 is 20.
You're back, finally.
Yes, we've just been to the park. Is something wrong, Mrs. Kirk?
We were counting lampposts, Mama.
And squirrels.
And dividing by tens.
That's very nice, dears, but Miss March has visitors.
I do?
Yes, waiting in the sitting room. Come along, girls. Continue counting.
11 plus 11 equals 22. 12 plus 12 equals...
Amy, Aunt March!
Joe, finally. Do you realize we've been waiting for over 30 minutes?
I'm sorry, but what a surprise. Amy, why didn't you write to tell me you were coming for a visit?
We aren't here for a visit. I thought we'd pay a common courtesy call since we are passing through.
Passing through?
Our boat leaves this afternoon, Joe. I'm accompanying Aunt March to Europe.
Europe? Oh, Amy, how exciting for you.
I know I once spoke of bringing you with me, Josephine, but you must admit, Amy does make a much more suitable companion.
Oh, I hope you don't mind terribly, Joe. I know how you've always dreamt of going.
Well, I'm disappointed, that's for sure. This will take me a while to get used to. But in the meantime, how exciting for you, Amy. You'll get to go to France and see all the beautiful paintings.
I am going purely for medicinal reasons. I should be taking the waters of highly respectable places and tending to my poor health.
I promise I will write. I believe that Europe will make a real woman out of me.
I'm sure it will. And maybe while you're there, you'll meet a handsome Italian count, and you'll marry into his family and live in his palazzo.
And I will send for you, and we'll dig in the Roman Forum for relics and carry out all of the plans we have made so many times.
Ridiculous chatter. The very idea. Come, Amy, we must see that my luggage is put away safely.
Must you go so soon?
Steamships do not wait for idle chatter. Come, Amy. Goodbye, Josephine.
Goodbye, Aunt March. I mean, bon voyage!
I will write to you about everything. And if you like, I'll give my best to Lori and Mr. Lawrence when we meet them in Paris.
Lori's in Paris?
Oh, but didn't you know? Surely Lori stopped by when they were in New York last month.
No.
They left on the 15th. I think it's what convinced Aunt March to go. She said if Europe was good enough for the Lawrences, it was good enough for... Oh! Goodbye, Joe.
Goodbye.
Miss Joe!
Oh, Professor.
I wanted to talk to you about your stories, but this is a bedtime, perhaps?
No. No, it's a perfect time. So, did you read all of them?
Yes.
Well, give me the truth and don't be stingy with it.
Miss Joe.
Oh, they're pretty awful, aren't they?
Hey. It is only that... My friends, why do you waste your talents like this? You are too good for such... Oh, I am so cruel. I do not know my place.
No, it's not you, Professor. It's just that.
Tell me, my friend.
Well, it's just that Amy is off to Europe with Aunt March, and for years she always told me she'd take me, and well, then I find out that Lori was in Paris and didn't even stop to say hello to me, and I...
Lori? This is the friend you have told me so much about?
Yes.
He must be a very foolish man to do such a thing.
No, Professor. I'm the fool. I deserve everything that's happened to me. And you know what? You're right. I should be ashamed of my stories. But you see, well, the maid of the dungeon, that paid well enough for me to send some Christmas gifts home last year, and the lost lovers, well, that paid well enough for me to send some money to
You
my
have
family.
talent, Miss Joe. I can tell from this that you have great talent.
You really think so, Professor?
But you must treat your talents with care. You must only write what you feel here, in your heart, in your soul. Then your talent will blossom. Then you will truly be a writer.
You're so kind, Professor. And you're so wise as well. I shall do what you say, and I thank you.
Ma chère Josephine, Petty is très magnifique. I'm having such a delightful time, and even Aunt March has to agree on occasion that there certainly is something to France, for they have such a respect for the old and old-fashioned things. On sunny days, I'm in the Tuileries Gardens. In rainy days, I'm in the Louvre, reveling in the pictures. I'm cultivating my eye and taste as fast as I can. Laurie makes fun of me, but he's so très fou sometimes. Yesterday, at the museum, I saw Napoleon's cocked hat and gray coat, his baby cradle, and even his old toothbrush. Also, Marie Antoinette's little shoe, the ring of St. Denis, Charlemagne's sword, and so many other interesting things. Who'd imagine that I get to see such things? Oh, Auntie March is calling, so I must close now. I long to see you again, and in spite of all of my nonsense, I am votre amour.
This castle hath a pleasant seat. The air numbly and sweetly recommends your gentle senses.
I do not know if the kind Mrs. Kurt would appreciate her boarding house being compared to Macbeth's castle.
Oh, it was wonderful, Professor. It's always been my dream to see Macbeth performed on a stage.
I thought it was your dream to play Macbeth yourself.
Oh, that too. When I could do the dagger scene.
I should very much like to see it.
Oh, what a villain I would be, Professor. That man tonight, he was capital, just like I've always imagined, but I'd still love to get my hands on the Scottish Thane. I will not yield to kiss the ground before young Malcolm's feet and be baited by the rabble's curse.
Bravo, bravo.
That was always our favorite scene. Laurie and I.
Tell me, have you heard from your friend Laurie?
No. Amy saw him in Paris, but still not a word from him. Oh, Professor, I messed up everything there.
Perhaps you only did what was in your heart.
Perhaps. I guess I'll never know for sure. But oh, what a lovely time I had tonight. I want to be something special, Professor. If I can't perform in Macbeth, then I shall write something just as marvelous. Such a conceit, but if you don't tell Mr. Shakespeare, then neither shall I.
Have you been writing lately?
No, not a word. Goodness knows I've tried, but it all comes out so... It's like you said, Professor. It must come from the heart, or else it is nothing. But listen to me going on and on. You'll have pupils first thing in the morning, and Minnie and Kitty will be up early, and here I am, rambling on about goodness knows what.
Then I thank you for an enjoyable evening, and I will say my good night.
Oh, but I must thank you, Professor. Just wait until I write Beth and tell her all about it. She'll be thrilled. I wish you could meet my Beth, Professor. She's not a silly goose like her sister. She's so true.
I should very much like to meet her someday.
Of course, she would be terrified of you.
Am I so fearsome?
No, not at all. She shies away from strangers. Once she got to know you, she'd see.
What would she see, Miss Jo?
A very good, a very dear friend. Someone whom she could trust and depend on and...
Yes, she would.
Oh, but it's getting so late. I should turn out the lantern. Oh, look, a letter. It's from Meg. Mrs. Kirk must have left it when we went to the theater.
What is it, Miss Jo?
Joe, Marmee doesn't know I'm writing this to you, and she wouldn't approve if she did know. Oh, Joe, come home as soon as you can. It's Beth. She's much worse, and I fear...
Miss Jo?
It's my Beth. Oh, I must return home first thing in the morning.
I see.
I'm sure Mrs. Kirk won't mind. Oh, my poor Beth. Excuse me, I need to start packing right away.
I understand. Perhaps you will allow me to accompany you to the train station in the morning. I should like to be of some service.
Oh, could you, Professor? Excuse me.
I returned home to a dark and quiet house. How quickly it had all happened. From that family joyfully reunited on that Christmas Eve to this cold February day when all was silence and waiting.
Can I see Beth, Father?
Not now, Joe. She's sleeping soundly and your mother's with her. Come in here. Let me look at you. My wild Joe. How different you seem.
Oh, I'm afraid not. There's no chance of improvement here. I must have said the wrong thing at least twice every day while I was in New York. But I don't regret my time there. It was capital.
So we gathered from your letters. But it's so good to have you back.
But what of Beth, Father? She will get better, won't she?
It's no use. Every doctor says the same thing, and hoping for a recovery now seems almost prideful. But we must keep Beth comfortable and admire her sweet disposition while we still have her with us.
Oh, Father.
Beth had indeed maintained her sweet, unselfish ways. We spent hours in her room talking of foolish things, and days gone by. It wasn't until several days after my return that we were able to speak about what truly occupied our minds.
When I am gone, Joe, you must stay.
No, Beth. We won't talk of such things.
But we must. You see, Meg has John and the twins to comfort her. And Amy has a whole new world opening up to her. But Mother and Father, they will need you all the more, Joe.
I shall try my best, Beth. But I'd rather you
Please
leave
don't.
than...
I have been resigned to it for so long that it only hurts me to see those I love trying so hard to keep hoping. You see, Joe, I've always had the feeling that it was never intended that I should live long.
But that's just a morbid fancy you have because you're so unwell.
I've always known. I'm not like the rest of you. I never made plans about what I'd do when I grew up. I never thought of myself as grown or married. I couldn't seem to imagine myself as anything but shy little Beth, hiding myself away in this house, of no use anywhere but here. I wanted never to go away. And the hard part now is leaving you all. I'm not afraid, Joe. But it seems I shall be homesick for all of you, even in heaven.
Beth was with us until the spring, and then one night, as silently and as unobtrusively she had tried to be her whole life, she left us. Her face that morning was so full of painless peace that those of us who loved her best could not help but smile through our tears and thanked God that Beth was well at last. What would Joe March do without her conscience, her soul? Well, Beth had left them behind with me, and not knowing how else to handle my grief, I turned to writing. I wrote about Beth, and about me and all of us, and how angry and alone I felt. And the more I started to write, the more I started to understand about what the professor said about only writing what you can feel in your heart. But enough adventure for Joe March for the moment. Elsewhere, another adventure was taking place. I will tell you about the romance of Amy and Laurie, as it was later related to me by the participants themselves. It began in Paris.
Ah, there you are, mademoiselle. And now tell me, how many times are you going to paint that same statue?
Until I get it right.
Well, I think it looks frightful enough as a statue. Why put it on paper as well?
It's a very great statue, Laurie. And by sketching it, I will try to understand its greatness. That is what the art books say.
I'm bored with books and with gardens. Amy, come for a ride with me this afternoon. The valet at the hotel was telling me about a little town not far from Paris where they have bullfights.
No. Thank you.
And why not?
You forget, Lord, that I am in Paris as Aunt March's companion. And when I'm not required by her, I will use this time to broaden my horizons and add to my cultural well-being.
You're so busy trying to be a highbrow lady that you don't know how to have any fun.
And you, Mr. Lawrence, are so busy being a child that you don't know how to do anything but have fun.
Me? A child? What? You're the one who's...
I got the arms wrong!
Oh.
Then, a few weeks later, in Heidelberg,
You know, Jo wrote to me about this German professor in New York who taught her all about Beethoven and how to really appreciate music.
Did she?
Yes, she explained that to truly understand Beethoven, you had to understand the German temperament.
That's probably true.
Music is something that is so easy to like and so difficult to really appreciate.
Well, I suppose I shouldn't bother then.
You know, Jo was right about you, Lori.
I highly doubt that.
You are frightfully an unserious person. She said as a childhood playmate would be ideal, but a grown-up adult, well, something is lacking.
Jo said that?
Well, she implied it.
What does Jo know about it anyway? Does she ever act like a grown-up adult?
No. Come to think of it.
Well, there you have it.
Well, still, I think if a man...
Shh! I'm trying to listen to the music.
things got somewhat more difficult in Baden-Baden.
Lori, there you are.
Miss March, I never thought I'd find you outside a casino. Have a change of heart or what?
I have been looking all over for you. Your grandfather is rather ill this evening, and
He sent for me?
No. I thought you ought to know.
I know. He's done nothing but complain ever since we arrived. Goodness, people come to Baden-Baden to improve their health, and here he comes to get sick.
So you go off to some gambling casino to spend his money?
My money? If it was his money, I'd still be in there.
Theodore Lawrence,
Yes, Miss Well-bred Amy March?
Do you want to know what I honestly think of you?
Oh, pining to be told.
Well, I despise you.
And why's that, pray?
Because with every chance you have for being good, useful, and happy, you are faulty, lazy, and miserable.
Strong language, mademoiselle.
Oh, if you like it so much, I'll go on.
Oh, please do. It's quite interesting.
You know, I thought you'd find it so because selfish people always like to hear about themselves.
So I'm selfish now too, am I?
When I first saw you in Paris, I thought you'd grown up and changed. And I swore to myself that I too could stop being so concerned about myself and try and better myself. But over the past few weeks, I can see that I was wrong about you. And maybe about me as well. And I quite despise you for it.
Then finally, there was Rome.
Good afternoon, Amy.
Lori, there you are. I'm surprised you. How's your grandfather this evening?
Much better. I think Rome agrees with him. We even toured the Vatican Library this morning.
I'm glad to hear he's well. You know, I think the Italian climate agrees with Aunt March as well. She's been in an unusual, cheerful mood these past few days.
That's good. Looking at more old churches?
Yes.
Oh, well, no shortage of old churches in Rome.
According to this book, the Capuchin Chapel should be right down this street, but I don't see it.
Let me see.
Perhaps it's too hot anyway. Do you ever notice how quiet the streets get at this time of day?
Siesta time. Can't make heads or tails of this map.
Siesta time. What a quaint idea. Though I can't see folks back in New England taking to it.
Perhaps you are just a little bit homesick, Amy.
Perhaps I am. You know, I was thinking of Beth again this morning. And how different things would be to go home when she won't be there. And I thought to myself how wise she was. In her childlike way, she was so wise, and here I am traveling all over Europe with Ad March and taking it all in, but Lori, I don't feel like I've grown at all.
Oh, but you have. I mean, you're not the same little Amy March I remember back home.
I don't feel the same, but am I anything or anyone better than I was? That's what I wonder.
Amy, I know you don't care for me, as you've said on particular occasions, but if I may be honest, I think you are quite a remarkable person, and what you think of me matters more to me than I thought any person could matter. And so, if you would only forgive me, and what I mean to say is, I can't read maps in Italian. Good day, Miss March.
Lori.
It was Meg who first told me of their engagement. Amy had written and asked her to break the news to poor dear Joe. I took it well, as they say, but more for Meg's sake than any sense of good-natured behavior.
But it's perfect, of course. Amy likes fine things and elegant places, and, well, Lori can provide them for her. I would have been a perpetual embarrassment to the boy, but she'll be a testament to him and to herself.
I think our Amy has changed, Joe. In her letters, she seems less flighty and self-absorbed. And her genuine concern for how you might react to her news, well, it was rather touching in its sincerity.
I'm sure Lori is the cause of changing her. He could get us March girls to do anything, except get me to marry him.
Joe, do you mind awfully?
Regrets? Not many.
We do worry about you, you know. Our Joe, always the boldest and bravest of the bunch. But now, you seem so fragile.
Oh, I'll be all right. There's no reason to make a fuss.
How's your writing going?
Oh, it's going quite well. I just sent a little novella of mine to the professor, and, well, if he likes it as much as I hope he will, I shall be overjoyed.
You and the professor write each other often?
Well, I scribble off little pages anytime genius burns, and he, kind man he is, well, he always responds to each one. Even though I'm sure he's got much better things to do this time. But that's just the man he is, Meg. He's so kind and caring.
It seems the professor has touched Joe's heart.
My heart? Yes, but he's a gentleman and a scholar. He sees right through me and my silly stories, and well, he's not afraid to tell me so. So you'll have to give up any romantic notions you have about us.
I will, as long as you promise you won't.
Meg, John has arrived with the twins. They're waiting out in the carriage.
Oh, I forgot about our picnic. I must go. Goodbye, Joe. I will see you Tuesday for dinner, Marmee.
Give the children a kiss for me.
It's all right, Marmee. You can come in. Meg told me, and I'm behaving myself.
My dear Joe. I hope you are not too cross with me. I wanted to tell you myself, but Meg said Amy insisted she break the news to you.
Amy knows I always try and act more mature when I'm with Meg.
Amy was frightfully worried about you. First, she takes your place and goes to Europe with Aunt March, and then she and Lori.
Well, it was my fault in both of the cases. And the whole world seems to know that I rejected Lori. Do they think I was just teasing him?
I knew you were sincere. But lately I have thought that if he came back and asked you again, you might perhaps feel like giving a different answer. Forgive me, my dear, it's just, I can't help but notice that you are very lonely. And sometimes there's a hungry look in your eyes that goes to my heart. So I fancied that Lori might fill that empty place if he tried again now.
No, Marmee. It's better as it is. And I'm glad that Amy has found it in her heart to love him. You are right, though. I am lonely. And if Lori were to have asked again, I may have even said yes. Not because I love him any more than when he first asked, but because I care more to be loved.
I am glad of that, Joe, for it shows you are getting on. And someday...
Bosh on someday! I think I'd better start behaving myself right now.
Joe!
Oh, I know, Marmee. Girls are supposed to be happy and patient and contented with someday. Well, I'm responsible for myself, and no one else is to blame. Not Aunt March or Amy, or even Lori. So there it is. Look at Jo. She finally has it all put together for herself.
Of course I minded that Lori would marry Amy, and all the rationalizing in the world couldn't change that. But I knew I did not love him, and it was foolishness to pretend I did. So I hid myself away in the attic and wrote, and read the professor's letters again, and wept. And in my fancy, I made those letters mean things that they didn't say.
Wait for me, my friend. I may be a little late, but I shall surely come to you.
If only he would. So good, so patient, so understanding of me always. My dear friend. I didn't value him half enough when I had him, but now I should love to see him again. For everyone seems to be going away from me, and I am all alone.
I would not yield to kiss the ground before young Malcolm's feet.
Lori? Is this... Oh, Theodore Lawrence I see before me, handle toward my hand. Come, let me clutch thee. I have thee not, and yet I see thee still.
It's really me, Joe.
Oh, Lori.
You're glad to see me then?
Glad. Words can't express... Where's Amy?
Your mother has her down at Meg's. We stopped her on the way, but they're all coming here. I couldn't wait. I wanted to be the first to tell you that...
Lori! You've gone and got married.
I have.
Actually married?
Very much so, thank you.
Mercy on us! What dreadful thing shall you do next?
A characteristic, if not exactly complimentary congratulation.
Well, what can you expect when you take one's breath away? I mean, you sneak in here like a burglar and you spring news like that on me when I'm half asleep. For all I know, I could still be dreaming all of this.
Well, I do apologize, Joe, but you know I can never stand to keep a secret.
So sit and tell me all about it. How long have you been a married man?
6 weeks at the American consulate in Paris.
6 weeks? And look at you already. You've grown bigger. Oh, taller, more distinguished.
Yes, and so you really ought to treat me with more respect.
How can I? And the very idea of being married and settled is so irresistibly funny, I can hardly keep from laughing.
You still see through me, don't you, Joe?
I always will. But I am happy for you and Amy, so I shall behave myself.
Are you really? I mean, happy for us?
What, did you think I'd throw rocks on your return?
Well, I wouldn't entirely blame you if you did.
How you underestimate me, Mr. Lawrence.
Joe, I must say something, and then we'll put it by forever. I never shall stop loving you, but that love is altered. I love Amy in the way I thought I once cared for you. I see now that I was headstrong and stubborn and wanted my best friend to also be my wife. But I've learned to love Amy, and she's helped me to learn about myself. And I honestly think that I can share my love between Sister Joe and wife Amy and love them both dearly, if differently. Joe, will you believe me and let us go back to the happy times we had when we first knew each other?
I believe you, Lori, with all my heart. But we are no longer boy and girl. Those happy times are gone, and we can't expect them to come back. We are man and woman now, with work to do. Playtime is over, and we must give up frolicking.
Joe, you seem so different all of a sudden.
As I said, Mr. Lawrence, you underestimate me. But I see a change in you as well. I shall miss the boy that I once knew, but I admire the man who will be my sister's husband.
Thank you, Joe. They're here.
Then let's go meet that wife home.
Where is she? Where's my dear Joe?
Here I am, but your husband has gone and ruined your surprise.
Oh, Joe, I have missed you so.
And look at the new Mrs. Lawrence. You are quite a lady. I just wonder where my silly little Amy has gone.
Oh, she's still here, Joe. Not even Lori can change me completely.
Settle yourselves down, everyone. Hannah has had tea ready for hours.
Hannah. Oh, welcome home, Mr. Lawrence. I'm sure you'll be looking forward to some rest after chasing your grandson halfway around Europe.
Well, I certainly missed my library, that's for sure. And my friends. There was only one March girl in Europe, and she's Mrs. Lawrence now.
Ain't it a sight to see her standing there as fine as a fiddle and hearing folks calling our little Amy Mrs. Lawrence?
Hannah, 4 months without your popovers. It's a wonder I can stand it all.
Well, then sit yourselves down and let me pour some tea.
You should have heard the twins when they set eyes on Amy.
Pretty auntie, they kept saying. Very pretty auntie.
Joe, haven't they grown into the most darling little things? Can you ever imagine that we were that small?
No, it looks like it's going to storm, and all my tablecloths are outside to dry in.
Oh, Amy, how did Aunt March handle the crossing?
Dreadful. That poor woman just cannot abide boats. She was sick all the time, and I kept saying to her, Auntie, let me stay with you. But she wouldn't hear of it. You're a married woman now. Your place is with your husband.
Why, was Lori ill as well?
It appears that Aunt March finally approves of something a member of our family has done. By marrying a Lawrence, Amy, it appears you've endeared her to us forever.
Oh, Lori, will you see what it is? Hannah couldn't possibly.
Gladly.
Now I, for one, want to hear all about the wedding. Amy, let's have your version of what happened.
Pardon me for the intrusion. Please, is this the March house?
Oh, yes, it is. Please, come in.
But it seems I have come at a bad time. I wanted to see Miss Josephine, but...
Oh, Lori, you best come quick. They're telling the most amazing lies about you in here.
You are Lori?
Yes, that's me.
You have returned then?
From Europe, this very day, in fact.
I think maybe it would be best if I just left this here with you then. I do not wish to disturb.
Please, let me get Joe. I'm sure she would... Joe...
But you can't cross the Atlantic without 2 chaperones, Aunt March said, and my health will restrict me to my cabin. So then Lori said, okay, then we'll get married in Paris before we sail. You should have seen her face.
What was it, Lori?
Very strange. This man was here. He wanted to give this to you, Joe.
For me, but I don't understand.
I tried to get him to stay, but...
Oh, it's Friedrich. Excuse me.
Joe!
Christopher Columbus.
Lori, where has she gone?
Professor Bear?
Miss Joe, you are getting all that. Come with this umbrella, please.
But where are you going?
I did not wish to intrude. I see you're having a party.
But you should join us. It's just family. And, well, Lori and Amy have just returned from Europe, and
I know.
they've gotten married. And here you show up. But what is this?
Open it, please.
It's my book. It's published?
I was so impressed with it, I sent it to a friend of mine. As you can see, he liked it too and published it. I would have told you right away, but I wanted to bring it to you myself and surprise you.
Well, you've certainly done that, Professor.
So, you are not sad?
No, I'm thrilled.
No. I mean, about your friend Lori getting married.
No, Professor. And I'm more glad to see you than I can say. But you should join us. I want you to come inside, and you should meet Marmee and Father and...
One moment. First, Miss Jo. There are some things I must say to you. I have been silent too long for that I feared. I thought that perhaps your friends Lori and you. What I mean to say is, I would have spoken sooner. I would have come sooner, but...
You are here now, Professor. That is what is important.
Yes.
And you should stay for a while and come and meet my
Miss
family
Jo.
and
I am not a rich man. I'm just an old fellow with no fortune, but a little learning. Yet, I hoped. I have long hoped that in your heart.
I think you have always known what was in my heart, Professor. Come, my Friedrich. Welcome home.
Hello?
This is Friedrich, everybody.
Meg,
My husband, John.
and so here ends the story of Jo March. Now she got to be to what she is. Not exactly the adventures of Odysseus, but for me, never anything less exciting. Friedrich and I married and opened a school for young boys. We had 23 great years together, and each one was more precious than the last. Soon, before he died, he said to me,
Thank you, my friend, for sharing your life. I think soon I shall finally get to meet your dear Beth.
and that's how I picture heaven. Friedrich and Beth together, waiting for me. They both continue to teach me so much.